It's really easy to say this is what you should do to make people change. But what I discovered was that what you really need to do is give people the practical skills and tools. So it's one thing to say it, the second thing is to actually give them the tools that they can implement and implement immediately that is going to have sustainable difference for them. So with that in mind, we went out and had a look at places like Harvard University, Stanford University, Oxford in the UK, even Melbourne University here in Australia. And we actually looked at the science. So from a neuroscience perspective around how the brain thinks and how you deal with change from a brain perspective, from a psychological perspective around how we deal with change and adversity. And then we also looked at organisational change and behavioural change within people. And we took that research and we took the elements of that and we actually built a program, a wellness program, which was, for within Australia at its time, the first really measurable corporate wellbeing program in Australia. And when we first brought this out, a lot of people sort of poo-hooed us and said, well, that's just a bunch of happy-clappy sort of stuff. But by relating it back to the science that comes from really some hard, strong evidence that is there in white papers and research papers, building a measurement tool to it, and then creating simple, practical skills and tools for people to do, that made it all really tangible for people and got rid of the wishy-washy or happy-clappy stuff. So when you give people that, people are then prepared to go, well, I might give it a go, because what you're telling me sounds simple, but it also is, now I've done it, easy to do. And that makes a big difference. When I arrived at Camp Quality, the organisation was in complete disarray. It had just come off the loss of about $1.5 million. It was actually in debt and was in financial difficulty. So there were a lot of things that needed to change, and yes, you could change the processes and systems like you can in any organisation to help it make it more efficient and effective, which is what we did, but the change was really about the change of our people, the way they thought, their attitude. So we set about actually trying to create a more optimistic way of thinking within our people than a pessimistic. Because everywhere you looked, there were roadblockers. No, we can't do this, no, we can't do that. We tried that, never worked. And so we wanted to shift that mentality, because the only way the organisation was going to grow was to actually move it from pessimism to more optimism. So from a business perspective, our program delivery went from servicing a few thousand children nationally a year to over 250,000 children affected by cancer each year. Significant change and significant growth. The ability of the organisation to raise sustainable revenue to meet the demands of servicing that number of children. We went from just having a couple of hundred volunteers nationally to over 2,500 volunteers working for us on any given day. Our sick leave, for example, went from an average of 9 days per person a year down to 3. And our staff turnover went from roughly about 42% down to 9%. So there was some significant change around the business metrics of the organisation by simply shifting the way our people thought about work and their engagement in work and their meaning attached to that. And all of that is really wrapped up in a whole lot of stuff that's based around your attitude. And with your attitude, how can you help build resilience? How can you help create a growth mindset within people? All of these things are looking at what is right with life rather than what is wrong. And that made a significant difference. The success that we had at Camp Quality was really just what we did, and it just became the norm and was no different for us. But it wasn't until I actually got approached by a guy called Todd Greenberg, who at the time was the CEO of the Canterbury Bulldogs, a rugby league team here in Australia. And they were in the news for all the wrong reasons, on every back page. And Todd actually came to me and said, I've heard about your wellbeing program and what you do and how you're empowering people and teaching them the skills to be more resilient and to bounce back. I'd like you to teach us that. And with that in mind, we're prepared to give you $1 million worth of sponsorship. And I knocked him back. And he couldn't believe it. He was saying, I'm coming to you with $1 million, we'll put your logo on our jersey, it'll be seen on TV in front of hundreds of thousands of people, great exposure, we'll also give you cash money. Are you crazy? And we said, no. It doesn't, your brand and your image is so poor compared to ours. We are very optimistic and you guys are very pessimistic. Why would we align ourselves to that? So he went away, but to his credit, he came back and he said, I really want to make this work. And so from that, I said to him, look, if you give us access to all parts of the organisation, your board right through to your players and your trainers and everything, your admin staff, we'll show you what we do. And so that's what we did. We spent time with the Bulldogs. The whole culture of the organisation changed. And I think Todd is the first to admit the impact that this program had for their people, whether it was their marketing officer, their admin officer, Todd as the CEO, or their players. It actually changed people's lives. They became more resilient. They built gratitude into their lives. They had a growth mindset rather than a set mindset where they were thinking, well, nothing's going to change. They became so used to change that they could eat it for breakfast. And so that enabled them to go from a club that finished last and had all this drama about them to the next year almost making the grand final, one game off making the grand final. And in the process, their membership grew faster than any other team in the competition. They had more people attending their games than anybody else. They had more merchandise sales. All of the business metrics followed the people metrics, which were actually about empowering your people and giving your people the skills and tools to be connected with life. The experience that we had with the Bulldogs really made me realise how you actually get organisations to grow. And yes, there's things about processes and systems, but it's all around people. Giving your people the skills and tools to be resilient and deal with the challenges and changes that happen every day in their life at work. Giving them the skills to understand what their strengths are and how to enhance those strengths even further. How do you actually get people to focus on their strengths rather than their weaknesses? All of these things add great skills to an organisation which help develop your bottom line. From all of this, we came to the conclusion that this was applicable across all levels of business, no matter where you sit, from a corporate, government or not-for-profit perspective. This actually is tangible and has real benefits for your people. Sharing this approach with other organisations was really the light bulb moment for me, where I could see that this made a big, tangible, sustainable difference within businesses. How do you actually take your people and make them resilient and deal with change and adversities that come their way? Particularly today, when there's change happening all the time from an economic perspective, from an IT perspective, there is change just happening all over the place. And our people need to be ready and have the skills to bounce back from any challenge that they're faced with. So I set up Change Ready, which is an organisation which helps other organisations deal with change, whether that is behavioural change, process change, restructuring. We're about giving your people the skills and the tools to be resilient, to bounce back and deal with change. The unique thing about Change Ready is that these programs are actually developed from real life experiences. So this is not something that you just pull off the shelf, read it and then say implement. This is actually been developed by the things that we've failed on and learnt from and built on and put into practice and live and breathe these every single day. That makes a big difference. At Change Ready, we have a suite of programs that are all evidence-based from all the latest research around the world. Again, based on neuroscience, psychology, behavioural science and organisational development. These are practical, simple and measurable tools that you can give to your people that make a tangible difference. A difference that is noticeable the next day. The skills that you can give your people that when they walk out the door, they can implement immediately. And that's the positive thing about Change Ready. Giving people the skills and tools that can be done right here, right now. The other thing about the program is that it's fun. And the best way that people can learn is by actually doing activities. And it's through these activities that people learn the simple tools that they need to implement that will help either build their resilience or create more optimistic thinking or bring more gratitude into their life. And when you show them this through an activity, you see the light bulb moment and people go, "You mean that's all I've got to do?" And I go, "Yeah, you do that, you practice it and create a good thinking habit, and then you've got that skill for the rest of your life." How brilliant is that? The best way of embedding the skills and the tools is you actually don't make them mandatory. It's not a cookie cutter, one size fits all. Our programs offer a whole range of skills and tools to allow people to cherry pick the tools that they want. So the tools that you want may be different to the person who's sitting next to you. So you actually give people a whole suite of tools, they cherry pick, and by cherry picking them, they're actually engaging and connecting to the tools that resonate with them. That's the power of it. By selecting your own tools that resonate with you, you have a far greater chance of embedding them into your daily practice because they are yours, not somebody else's. The feedback that we've been getting has been fantastic because people are saying to us these skills are practical, they're evidence-based and they're measurable. And when you wrap all those three things up, it makes them really easy for people to implement in their life every single day. We start at the beginning. My background really started when I was a preschool teacher. And I only actually did that for a year and then thought, as I was doing it, I couldn't see myself being 50 and still being a preschool teacher. So I went back and studied, and from that moved through local government, jobs in local government area, and then really hated it. Just didn't like the politics involved and that sort of stuff, and took on a managerial role in the not-for-profit sector, originally with Multiple Sclerosis Society, and moved on to managing Starlight Children's Foundation and then Camp Quality. So I had 25 years or so in the not-for-profit sector, but yeah, originally when I had a full length of hair, I was a preschool teacher.